Welcome. As you can tell, we're not in St. Louis anymore. We have escaped amidst the COVID quarantine and quarantined ourselves in our car and made the trip from St. Louis up to Mount Rushmore, something I've wanted to do ever since I was a little kid, and now I was able to do so with our new Tesla. See the experiences that we have, from tips and tricks to make your Tesla work the way you would like it to, and some of our journeys along the way. We'll see you on the road. And welcome to Real Life Tesla. Okay, so we are getting ready to go on our trip. We're going up to see Mount Rushmore. It's been something I've always wanted to do, and now that the coronavirus is upon us and we can't socialize with anybody, I can't go to work, everything is shut down, we decided to go for a little road trip. We thought it'd be great because we could stay in the car. We're actually going to sleep in the car, and Mount Rushmore is open on the grounds, their visitor center and their extra services are reduced, but we can still get up, we can still do a road trip. I've been excited to actually drive again with our new car, and so I kind of wanted to show you what we have. We're actually going to sleep in the car, so the only thing we have in the back here is our bedding. We brought a couple sleeping bags to fold out, some sheets, pillows. We do have a small cooler that we're going to carry some sodas in. We're going to try to reduce our exposure to other people, so the more we can carry, the less stops we interactions that we have, and we figured this would help us. When you do a trip with a Tesla, one thing you have to remember is to take your charging cable. Almost walked off without it, but we have our charging cable, our 1450 adapter, our regular 110 adapter, and the extra J1772, I think it is, that came with the car, packed in the bottom. Everything else is inside or up front. We'll go around front, I'll show you. The nice thing about having a frunk is you have extra storage. So our 2 suitcase bags for our three-day trip fits nicely up here. I try not to put things that are fragile up front, because I think the front bounces more than the back, and so just our clothes are up here at this point. So let's get going and we'll see you on the road. Okay, so here we are. I'm getting ready to take off on our trip, and I've put in the navigation to Mount Rushmore and did it by voice command. It worked well. Pulled up the trip. Looks like we'll have 5 stops in the middle. The first one is fairly close. We'll still have 20% battery left as we get to Columbia, Missouri. But the nice thing about this is this shows everywhere we need to stop. And this will be our first trip, our first experience with supercharging, so it ought to be pretty neat. So when I look at my charging, the battery, I'm at 284 miles. I have it set to charge each night up to 90%. They tell you that you want to live between 90 and 20% of your battery, and so I have it set to 90%. Almost every morning it comes up 288 miles. This morning, for some reason, it came up to 286, and it's actually done that once or twice before, but normally it comes up to 288 miles. So we're at 90% charge. I had done a little playing on a better TripPlanner.com website, and I showed it starting at 90% and going, and then I tried it at 100% charge and made the same trip, and the trip only took 4 minutes longer with 90% charge versus 100% charge. So I didn't think that it was worth taking the battery up to 100%. I have not done it yet with the car, just to save 4 minutes of time on our drive. So as we get ready to go here, we'll kind of keep track, and we will jump in from time to time. So here we go. We are in the first leg of our trip, and about 20 miles back, we were jamming to the tunes, and sightseeing and didn't see the notification, and she kicked us off autopilot. So I've been having to drive for the last 20 minutes, and it's been a new experience after having autopilot on for so long. I've never been yelled at so much for all my driving. I've hit every dotted line, hit the yellow line, and the noise indicators yelled at me, and I miss my autopilot. So I'm excited to get back and to stop and to sit and be able to reset so I can navigate on autopilot again. You lose everything once she comes off. It didn't seem like she wanted to do lane assist either, but a couple of times. It was interesting because when I hit the yellow line, she wouldn't do lane assist or lane departure, but when I was in the right lane and I would butt up against the dotted line, then she would illuminate the left line in blue and yell at me. So this will be our first experience, and seeing what a supercharger is actually like. It looks like it's here at the Holiday Inn. Right across from Jimmy John's. And there's a Tesla white, same vehicle, departing. And here we go. There's 4A, 4B. He's on 3B, and he's on 1B. So we want 2B. All right, so let's take a look and see what it is. When we started our trip, she said we were going to have 45% battery left when we got here. Or no, actually she said we had 40%. We were tracking for 46 and 47 for a while, and we're actually at 45. So we're doing better. We're at 270 watts per mile. And so I think we're doing pretty good. We try to shoot for 250. We've been averaging 75 miles an hour, 5 miles over the speed limit. So we're going to charge a little bit here and see how she does. So you want to grab your glove. So because we're in the pandemic, we are going to be a little bit more cautious. A little bit about the supercharger. That cable seems to be about twice as thick as the cable that came with the car. And so thus we should get a pretty good charge with this. So we brought our gloves, and Doc Moore here is going to do surgery. And she's in. All right. We have green.
Flashing blue.
All right, so let's see how this does. The charging station said it was 150 kilowatts, and we'll see how she charges. And we've had our car for a little over 3 weeks, and we had our NEMA 1450 put in at home, and when we did so, we ran a 60 amp breaker, hoping to be able to use 48 amps and have a good charge at home. But our home system is capable of more, but the cable that comes with the Tesla only allows 32 amps at a time. So we have a restriction in our charging by the cable that came with the car. So this is, we've got three other cars here charging with us. So this is supposed to be 150 watts. We're getting 116, 115 watts. It was quite interesting. About 5 miles out or so, 5 minutes out, a sign came up here and it said preconditioning battery for supercharging. And so that was quite interesting. But to see it at 465 miles per hour charge is mind-blowing. I know I've seen a lot of videos of people charging and it hitting in the 700s and 800s, but this is our first time, and looks like we're 455 down to 109. So the supercharger also said it was either at 12 cents or at 23 cents. And this current session here is showing 23 cents. And so I'm assuming that that is daytime versus nighttime hours. So she says she has 20 minutes to charge. This stop here, we were only an hour and 20 minutes from where we started. And we ate lunch right before we left, so we don't have a desire. There's a Jimmy John's across the street. Of course, the Holiday Inn here. Use the restroom. So this might be a great time to watch some Netflix or Hulu and see what we can do there. So we'll let her charge here. She says we got 15 minutes. To be honest with you, if we were walking across the street over there to Jimmy John's and use the restroom and walk back, it would be every bit of 15 minutes. So we'll watch her and see how she goes. Screen. Our next stop is Independence, Missouri. So it says that we'll still have 32% once we get to Independence. So instead of sitting here continuing to charge on a charger that's not giving us our full capabilities, we made an executive decision to go ahead and stop supercharging here and head on to our next stop. So one nice thing about this is that we can see where we're going to be at our next stop, and it helped us from what I think might be wasting time here supercharging in a station that's not giving us full capability. So we are back on the road, and hopefully we'll have full navigate on autopilot, and we'll be able to do some teaching here. One of the nice things about subscribing to our channel is that we'll actually teach you how to do the settings to where you can make the car perform to its best and your comfort level. One of the nice things about the EV is it's nice and quiet until you get somebody who needs a new muffler. I tell you, having to navigate on autopilot, and I use autopilot all the time. I hardly ever drive on any road without at least one of them on. It really makes it hard to go back and to be a manual driver. I was ping-ponging back and forth between that lane when my autopilot was off, and it was an eye-opening experience how much attention you really have to pay to your driving. Now you might notice here that we have the chill mode on. We've kind of resolved ourselves to the standard mode when we're showing friends and family some of the things that she can do. And the chill mode seems to be more than enough power to get up and go and to do the things that that we want her to do, and hopefully it's saving us a little bit of energy in our system that will allow us to avoid the range anxiety, as people like to talk about. So when we get in here, we're going to discuss under driving, actually under navigation, nope, autopilot, customize, there we go, speed-based lane changes. There seems to be a lot of confusion in this, and watching other videos on exactly how this works and how it can help you in your driving. A lot of people think it's the aggressiveness in which she changes lanes. So I like to go at 2 on the highway with little traffic. When you're on here, well, let's just talk about this for a second. Your car distance is set at 1. We found that to be about 3 car lengths of space on the highway. Now, obviously, the faster you go, the greater that distance will get, but for the most part, we found that to be about 3. When you switch to 2, that seems to be about 4 car lengths. 3 would be about 5 car lengths, and so on, in your separation distance from the car in front of you. So I like to go at 2. 2 seems to give us a good space. If you're in rush hour or heavier traffic, 1 might be better for you, because that'll bring you closer to the car in front of you, and there are less opportunities for the selfish drivers to cut in front of you and take that gap. They think, you know, you're leaving that space just for them, and rather than leaving that space so if this guy slams on his brakes, I have enough time to respond and to put the brakes on. So 1, about 3 car lengths, 2, 4 car lengths, 3, 5 car lengths, and so forth. We really haven't gone up past that, but that kind of gives you an idea on where you want to be in your distance settings for the type of traffic that you're in. Like I said, if you're in rush hour, or you got all the crazies out with you, 1 might be better. It limits that gap so that you don't have people cutting in front of you, because you know as soon as they do, they want to slam on their brakes, and then you don't have that distance to react. So it's a little bit different responsive time for you. So hopefully we're going through this town here, and once we get the other side, we should be able to do some experiments with the different settings and be able to show you how they affect your driving and your comfort level of driving. So when you click on here, navigate on autopilot can customize to your preferences, including 4 settings for speed-based lane changes: disabled, mild, average, or Mad Max. Now, when I first thought about this, I thought Mad Max reverted me back to my days when I lived in New Jersey, right across from Manhattan, and all of those taxi cab drivers were driving like they were in Mad Max mode. And you had to drive just as aggressively in order to keep yourself alive. But not quite the case with this. So let's let her, she's trying to change lanes, there she goes. Alright, when enabled, navigate on autopilot will suggest lane changes into faster moving lanes in the event that your Model 3 is traveling slower than your desired set speed. So what this will do is this looks at what you have your cruise control set for and how fast you're actually going when you're following behind someone and there's a lane to change into. Mad Max basically does not let you slow down at all. So if you're doing 70 and it detects that car is going to slow down, it's going to initiate the change. It won't initiate the change or the speed in which you change the lanes. The same degree of angle and the same speed will be there. But what it does is it says, how slow do you want to slow down before she forces a lane change? So in Mad Max, and you're going to see here, when we go here to Mad Max, if we're going 70, 69 at the most, she's ready to change lanes. Now, if we changed it to average, she's going to slow down a couple of miles before she gets to the point where she wants to change the lane. So we're still in kind of heavy traffic, and our lane changes are still being affected by the cars that want to do 85 miles an hour down the highway. And so once we get out of town here a little bit, we should have a little bit better ability to demonstrate this. So let's slow down here a little bit. We've lost a couple cars behind us. We're going to give a gap over. Let's see if she'll change back out of the passing lane. And we're going to go back to Mad Max, and we're going to actually show you how this does. So she's taking her sweet time and getting out of the passing lane. So let's initiate and send her back over. Now we've got a distance ahead of us, so let's kick up the speed. And as we get close to this truck, we're going to see the difference in our set speed cruise control versus our actuality. So there we are. We're at 70. Our cruise is at 70, and we might have to go up a little bit faster to catch this tractor trailer. Now that we've come out of town, speed has increased and everybody's taken off. I guess they just left us behind. So remember, we're at 2, and so but she doesn't necessarily, in Mad Max, is going to wait until we get to 4 car lengths behind that truck before she's going to want to change lanes. Because on Mad Max, she's going to move before we even slow down. She's got that desire to change lanes. She highlights the lane, says, I want that lane, and then she takes it. So that's how Mad Max works. Mad Max says, okay, we're approaching her, we're going to change lanes right away before we even slow down. Alright, so let's slow down a little bit back so we can keep this video from being 2 hours long on this part of the demonstration. Oh, now we're going up a big hill. Must be a full tractor trailer. She's slowing down quite a bit too. So let's go back over, and we're going to slow down a little bit more. We'll let her get up ahead of us so that we'll have the greater distance than the 2 setting that we have it on. And no more cars are behind us, so we're going to set her back up to 75. And now we're on average, so now we'll see how she'll slow down. So she really didn't catch the 75, but 74, there's 75. So now we'll see how slow she'll go down before she initiates the change. So that time she was at 68. Normally she doesn't go down that far on average. We're going to try it again. Although that hill kind of messed up our challenge. This truck driver is probably thinking we're crazy. So let's move her back over. So I have to back up enough to where I can get up to my cruising speed before the distance settles or draws closer. So we'll let her get to the top of the hill, and then we'll crank her back up, and we'll see how average is supposed to work. We're starting to get some traffic coming up from behind us. So why does this make a difference? Well, in Mad Max, if she's thinking that she's going to change lanes at the slightest bit of any slowing down, then you're going to go back and forth into lanes. You're going to... Okay. You're going to go back and forth between lane changes more frequently than if you're willing to let her slow down a little bit and stay in the same lane. So Mad Max is the point of being more aggressive and changing over due to your speed change, versus mild, she may go down 7-8 miles before she decides to go around the slower traffic that's in front of you. Alright, so we've moved it to average. Now we're going to see how far she's going to slow down. There she goes. It was at about 5 miles. We'll try again here. One thing I've noticed is her aggressiveness to get out of the passing lane does not change. Once she gets past that car, then she'll change, but this truck is close enough to us now that she's not going to get out of it. So let's back down a little bit. Alright, we're going to try it again here. We are on average, and we've been fighting with traffic a little bit, but we will edit out these mishaps and give you a nice visualization of how this works. So we're doing 75. So 71. So she was about 4 miles down from our set cruise control. Before she initiated the change to get over. And that's what we found in our practice and preparation for making this video, was it was about 3-4 miles down on average, versus Mad Max was giving us 0 to 1 mile decrease before she was initiating a lane change, keeping in mind that there was no other cars or traffic around us when we were practicing it. So it looks like we might have another opportunity up here. Alright, so we're on the mild setting now, and still no traffic behind us, so she's able to change. There's 10 miles, 11. She's sensing that the truck is speeding up, and there she goes. About 10 miles is what we found to be an average for changing on the mild setting. And so that would help you if you're not wanting to change lanes back and forth to go around slower traffic. If that bothers you, watching her change over and then change back out of the passing lane, you have that ability to change your car to your comfort level. So if you're on Mad Max she sees that car to start to slow down and you're within your following distance, she's going to change over. If you're on average, she's going to go down, you know, close to 5 miles before she changes. And on mild, it seems to be about 10 miles that she will slow down before she changes lanes. So depends on your aggressiveness. On your wide open highways like this, Mad Max would be better. It would keep you from slowing down as much. If you've got a little bit more traffic and you don't want the aggravation of double checking her to make sure the lane's clear before she goes around slower traffic and then moving back, then average or mild might be more accommodating for you. And that's the great thing about our channel, is we're going to actually teach you how to set her up so where she drives the way you feel comfortable in your driving. Because even when I'm on navigate on autopilot, my ears have tuned to her tones, and she talks to me and tells me what's going on. But she's chiming when she wants to change lanes. She chimes when she wants to get back. If she comes off of navigate on autopilot, you get a different tone. If she comes off of autopilot altogether, you get a different tone, usually a big red steering wheel. And so you learn to listen to the tones and her talking to you. And I say her because my wife named her Tessa. To show you here, we are 7.5 miles, 9 minutes out from our next supercharging station, and wanted to see if she would give us the same notification that she was preconditioning the battery before we get there, and how far out she actually does that. So we are gonna ride here with you for a little bit and see as we come down. It says we're gonna charge here for 25 minutes because we didn't charge as long as we needed to at the last station. I think it rerouted us to this supercharging station. But I'm excited because this one has a Bass Pro Shop. It's all going to depend on whether or not Bass Pro is open. And if Bass Pro is open, then we may charge to 100%. Battery for supercharging. So this was 3.1 miles out, 4 minutes. Maybe since we've been driving for a couple hours, the battery was a little bit warmer and she didn't need to condition quite as long. So we're getting ready here to the exit, and we'll see you at the superstation. Okay, so we just pulled up at our supercharger here at Independence, Missouri, and it is at a Bass Pro Shop. We have checked and they are open, so we're excited. So as we look here you see your supercharger that you're at, it tells you your estimated charge time is 25 minutes. But if you skip this and went to Council Bluff, you would actually go a negative 31 or 37% in your battery. So that is not a good thing. And so we're here and we are going to charge. However, we are going to go into charging and we are going to set our set limit all the way up, just so that she will continue to charge if we don't get out here quick enough, which we do not anticipate doing so. So with this, we are going to hook up to the charger, and I want to see what kind of charge that we have here. Since we are the only ones here, there's 2, 4, 6 charging spots. And so we got closest to the battery pack as we can. Leanne's grabbing her glove so she can put the charge into it. As we've quarantined ourselves to our car this weekend, doing our part and staying around, away from as many people as we can. We are still trying to do so even though we're out of the house. So here she goes. Doc Moore's got the plastic glove. And we're good. So let's see what kind of charge we have as she kicks in. And here we go. We're at 100 miles. It's at 6:33 calculating. She's not moving up too fast. We'll have to see how. There she goes. There's 100. $115. She's still climbing. That might be her max point. 125, 517 miles per hour charging. So we're good. We're limited time, so we're going to take off and head into Bass Pro. When we went by the front door, they had a sign that says minimum or maximum 50 people in the building at one time. And so we should be able to keep our social distancing of 6 foot away from everybody else and enjoy a little bit of time here at Bass Pro Shop. One of the best parts about the Bass Pro Shop here in Lee Summit is the aquarium. There's a big boy. So when we came in, they had a guy meet us at the door. Everybody gets a tag that keeps the number count under 50. And they had hand sanitizers and disinfectant wipes. And so we got our hands sanitized, got our membership card for the visit, and we've been walking through here and we've come across one person. Actually 2, it was a couple. But other than that, this place is pretty much a ghost town. I want to go get a picture of this over here. So we're having fun right now with our automatic headlights. They're working pretty good. They get the slightest bit of light coming towards the car and she dims them. And when the high beams come on, they are bright. And it'd probably be a bigger contrast, but I like to run with the fog lights on when my high beams are on low. So when she goes back to low, the fog lights kick on, which gives her a better visibility of the lines. And she's pretty quick with those. She brightens up those signs. Signs are reflectors. And she picks up that headlight. She comes down pretty good. She's looking really well in our night vision, and she's been cruising right along. And so I thought I'd take a moment and show you how the high beams come on. If you got your headlights on, you take your left stick and push it forward. That pushes it onto the high beams, and you'll see up here she's got her high beam on there, and then when she goes to low beam it turns green, and you'll see that blue turns gray, and shows that the high beam, the automatic high beams are on. So sorry for the jumpy ride here. We're cruising pretty good on this highway, and we'll check in with you again soon. Okay, so we just pulled up at Council Bluffs, Iowa, and we have 43 miles left on our charge. When we go to energy, it shows that we have 13%. It was scheduled for 14% arrival, it looks like, and we ended up with 13%. You know, if we were in a regular gas car and we got down to, 2 gallons left in the tank, we'd be quite worried, because you wouldn't really be able to see the dial and know exactly how many miles you have left to empty. But it's a whole different concept when you're in a Tesla, because it's calculating it, and you don't have that worry because it's telling you how many miles you've got left to drive and how many miles your battery has left on it. So you don't have that range anxiety. Even though we're getting down close to the end, we knew way back when that we would have plenty of power to get us to our destination. So let's go into our charging, and we're going to hook up and see what kind of charge we get here. Now, if this had been during the day, this would have been an awesome place to charge. I have my glove on. Waiting for communication. And there we go. And now she's hooked up, and let's see how high it goes. So there's 100, 120. Ooh, it hit 129 kilowatts. 130. You know, one thing we didn't see as we got close to this supercharger is it didn't precondition the battery for supercharging like it's done in our 2 previous times. So it looks like we're going to be pretty maxed out there, 130, 132. I believe this was a 150 kilowatt charger, but at 551 miles per hour, I'm excited because I'm used to charging at 31 miles per hour at home. To give you an idea, we're right here where all the Tesla chargers are, and want to kind of show you that when you stop at these superchargers on your trip, need not worry you're going to be bored during your stop while you're charging, because there's everything under the sun in this place. There's Qdoba and a Mattress Firm if you ever want to buy a mattress. I know those things were sprouting up like on every street corner for a while. So there's the McAllister's Eat Fit to Go. You can get your hair cut if they weren't closed for all of this coronavirus. There's a Target over there. Hobby Lobby. This is Firehouse Subs, Five Below. I mean, just everything that you want to go shopping for. You know, no need to go shopping right before you go on your trip, because when you stop at superchargers, most of these are in complexes that are huge. Yep, TJ Maxx. Buffalo Wild Wings, GameStop, Radio Shack, Dollar Tree. Man, there's a nice lake here. Look at this, big fountain in the middle, couple fountains. And more stores. I know this wind is probably messing with the microphone right now, so I'm gonna stop here and I'll see you when I get back in the car. Okay, so I'm back in the car, and it shows that we have 30 minutes of charging. We're up to 107 miles already, and we're charging about 515. So since none of our stores or restaurants are open here, this is exactly why they gave us entertainment. So we can go to YouTube, and it turns down the lights as the theater screen opens up. All of your controls move to the top that you need. Your temperature, your volume, display. I tell you what, if you guys have not seen Kate and what's his name? Kara and Nate. They've got some pretty cool videos. They've seen some pretty neat places. Whoops. So we're gonna expand. Okay, so we found the way to make it full screen, and my lovely bride is going to demonstrate this. Well, and that's how you do it. So once we touch the screen and the bar came up, over in the right hand corner is the expansion. So these are the same controls basically that you have when you're on your regular YouTube. And great picture. It hasn't buffered or anything. And we're sitting out here.
Great connection.
Great connection. Watching a YouTube video while we're supercharging. So we'll let it go. Okay, so we're almost here at the end of our charge. As you can see, we're at 317. I moved the charge up to 100% because we're going to be in camp mode over the night, and we have a long trek to our next supercharger in the morning, and I wanted to see if we could eliminate the need to come back here in the morning and charge before we head north up to our next charging station. And so you hear everybody talk about how it slows down when you get to the top end of your battery range. Now we were at 540 miles an hour charge when we first plugged in. And now that we're down to the last 5 miles, it's gone down to 5 kilowatts and 20 miles an hour. And so you can see it is dropped dramatically as she's trying to pump in the last couple miles. And the only reason why I'm doing it, I think I have enough now, but I've never taken it to 100%. And since we were going to be close to needing the full charge, I thought, well, let's go ahead and charge it all the way up and see just how many miles that she will put into the battery before she says charge complete. Okay, so I promise you this will be the only time I ever charge to 100%. And we've gone to charge complete, and it's 320 miles. When I charge at 90% at home, normally it's 288. Every once in a while, it'll show 286 as a charge complete, and so it's 2 miles less. I don't know if this is one of those cases, but we charged to 100% of what we were able to, and the max mileage is 320 miles. Now you notice down there our supercharging this session was 1353. When we were at 317, it was at 1020 something. And so basically it was $1 a mile for the last 3 miles of this supercharge. Not worth it. And in this next segment, we'll get into some of the things that we've learned through this day. Okay, so now we're going to get our directions for where we're going to spend the night. And so what you want to do is we're going to go into Google Maps, and up in the street locator, we're going to press in there and hit paste, and the address will go in. We've already done it because we practiced a couple times, so select the address and then hit directions. And then in the top right hand corner, you got 3 little dots, and you click and hit share directions. Scroll over till you find your Tesla, hit Tesla, and it's sent. And if you look over here, she's calculating, and there she goes. So we're off, and we will see you when we get there. Okay, so we just got our bed made, and what we did was we folded down the seats and then slid the front seats back up as close as we could to the headrests of the back seats so that our pillows won't fall down during the night. And we took 2 sleeping bags and we laid them out, put a fitted sheet over them, a flat sheet, which happened to be flannel, and then our comforter on top of that. So you can see we've got plenty of room to extend our legs back, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so here we are. We are actually in the back. Got plenty of room. The back dash is now playing support for our iPad, which we've downloaded some movies, and we'll get to watch a movie for a little bit as we unwind from our journey today. But it's pretty cool. I turn this light out, we might be able to see some stars up on top. But it sure will be nice when we have the tinted windows on. Okay, so it's morning time, and our windows are a little fogged because we actually did not use the camp mode because it was supposed to stay warm enough that we didn't feel that we would need it, and we were able to save some more of the battery. The back dash worked as a great support for our iPad. We were able to watch a movie for a little bit before we went to sleep. And nice empty parking lot. Had a good night's sleep, had plenty of room, and saved us a night at the hotel. We can use that savings towards our next payment. So here we are this morning as we're in an empty parking lot. Good morning, sunshine. So I kind of wanted to show you how the setup was a little bit last night. So we had 2 sleeping bags that we opened up, had a flannel sheet over us and a comforter over us. And even though it got down to 46 degrees last night, we still were able to stay warm. Now what makes this all possible is if you see this opening, it is nice and square. which allows you full width of the car's interior for two people to stay side by side. And we had plenty of room, and you see some who will put an air mattress back here that takes up so much room that their hips will actually hit the top of here. But with this two sleeping bags, it was perfect. Had great room. The other car that we have, this is an oval type opening, and it would be almost impossible for one person to sleep in, much less two. Now the other drawback is when the way the seat folds down, it does give you a slight incline, and that incline will push you down a little bit during the night. And so there was a few times where I had to actually scoot back up for it. I think if we do this again, our front seats won't go back so far, so that we'll have a little bit more headroom. I was able to stretch out. I'm almost 5'10", and I was able to go completely straight, although I sleep on my side and bend my knees a little bit, so I had no problem. But if you're kind of who wants to stretch out and straighten out, it'd be a tight fit. But with the seats forward, we'd have a lot more room. So we are going to go see if we can find a restroom and get our bearings set, and we'll hit the road. So I want to put one more little clip in here. A lot of you might be worried about what happened to the battery overnight. So as we were laying there, we turned off everything. We normally take the air conditioning down to 60 in the house at night. We have a nice big comforter, and it helps us save on electricity. And so it was 50 degrees when we laid down. It got down to 46 last night. So I felt, since I had my phone and was able to control the car, if we got cold in the middle of the night, I'd be able to turn on the heater. But we never did, and it got down to about 46 degrees last night. It was 301 miles when we went to sleep at 1 a.m. And this morning I woke up and turned on the heater, and it was about 290 when I first remembered to look at the battery. The heater had been on for a couple of minutes, so I'm assuming 291, 292. We probably lost maybe 8-9 miles through the night with nothing running. And just the way we would like it, because we're going to need the full charge to get us going this morning. If we had run the heater, I'm sure we would have lost a lot more. But if we didn't need it, why run it? We locked the doors once we got inside, and Sentry mode kicked on. So we had our own little security system watching us all through the night, which gave a little peace of mind as well. So we'll hit the road. Okay, good morning. We've found our way back to some picnic tables and going to have some breakfast, and wanted to give you a little recap of some of the things that we learned yesterday in our first long drive that we had with our new Tesla. She's got some restrictions. She's got a long ways to go before she gets to full self-driving or autonomous driving. And a couple of the challenges that we had was, after we would exit, we'd get back on the highway. If it was a short entrance ramp, in other words, the lane didn't run for a long period of time, it went just a short and cut back in. There was a couple of times where she did not use her turn signal to get back and merge into the traffic. And she actually went to the end of the lane, and with the white lane curving and ending the lane, that forced her over to the left. And there was actually one car that was pretty close to us that we ended up cutting off. But you have to understand and realize her limitations in order to make sure that you stay safe and your driving is is good. So those shorter entrance ramp mergers, you want to make sure that you're aware of everything. And so it might almost be better when you first get on the highway to actually get on the highway before you turn on your cruise control, because without her signaling, and with the way people drive nowadays, not all of them give you room to merge and get on the highway. It could be quite troublesome. Another challenge that we had when we went through Kansas City last night, there's a couple of turns on Highway 70 that are very sharp. And although I think it's a 65-mile-an-hour speed limit through there, there was big flashing signs up above that said high curve, slow down to 45 miles an hour. And she doesn't pick up on those. And so if you were not paying attention or not aware, and slowed down your cruise control before you got to it, she would have had a really hard time making the turn. Another challenge that we had was when we went through a construction zone, if maps was not accurate. There was some new construction in Omaha last night that the highways have been changed and maps have not been updated yet. And so we were actually driving off the highway. She got really confused. She didn't know which way to navigate. She didn't know which lane to stay in. And it forced us to actually take control and maneuver through the interchanges until we got on original highway. So that's something that you always want to be careful. As soon as you notice that maybe you're not necessarily on maps on the road, that you kind of pay more close attention to. When the lanes changed, we went through construction a couple times yesterday. The car did perfect. Stayed in the lane, did all of the changes, all the maneuvers, even when the lanes got tight and close. But she had a hard time navigating the speed control of the car. Another thing that we've noticed is that you'll hear a lot of times people say that she can read the speed limit signs on the side of the road and knows what speed to set the car at. And I just can't believe that is the case. She is reading the mileage that is in Google Maps. And whatever Google Maps has set for that highway speed is what she'll use to actually do your cruise control. Because there was times where the speed limit sign on the display was showing 55 miles an hour as we would go past a 60-mile-an-hour speed limit sign, which was easy and well lit and easy to read, but she never picked it up and she maintained the 55 and didn't change. The last thing I'd like to talk about is our last supercharge of the night last night. When we got into Omaha, we were topping off the battery before we found a place to sleep. And since we were sleeping inside the Tesla, we wanted to make sure we had a full charge so that we could get through the night. We had planned on using camp mode to keep us warm. But after we actually set up the bed, the comforters and the sleeping bags, we realized that we had more than enough to keep us warm. And in our house, we normally turn the heat down to 60 to keep the electricity bill in line. And so we're kind of used to sleeping in cooler weather, and we felt that it was nice and cozy in there. So we turned off the heat, turned off everything. It was about 1:10 in the morning, and I looked and it was set at, we had 301 miles on the battery. When I woke up this morning, it was a brisk 46 degrees inside the car. We were still nice and warm, but I knew we were going to get out from underneath those covers, and I turned up the heat to 68 in the car, and the battery started to drop. And I'm figuring we lost about 8 to 9 miles through the night before I turned on the heater. So not a bad loss if you're not using any of the systems. Jury's still out if we'll do that again tonight. Wasn't any worse than camping. It was still a little firm bed in there, even though we were laying on 2 sleeping bags. So if you're used to camping and sleeping on the ground, it'll be no problem for you. If you're like my brother who thinks camping is the Holiday Inn Express, it might be a little bit tougher for you. So I hope you are enjoying this. One of the nice things about our channel is we take time to teach you how to use the settings and how to program the car to operate the way that you want. So all right, so it's time for breakfast, and we'll see you on the road. Okay, so we're jumping back in here, and we're going to teach you something new about your air conditioning system. So when you hit your button up or down, the slide dial will show up. And when you do that, you can see that to the left is blue and to the right is gray. Where it mixes between the blue and the gray is when the air conditioning will actually start to kick on. So if you're warm, but you don't want the air conditioning to turn on, don't go into the blue, because once you go into the blue, then the air conditioning will start to kick on. So when you see this, let's see if we can do here, keep it up longer. So as you scroll to the left, you can see where it starts to meet the blue. That's where actually the air conditioning will start to kick on. If you keep it up into the grayer section, the heat will stay on. So if you're warm, but you really don't want to turn it all the way to air conditioning so that you can maintain battery, you can pay attention to where your blue and your gray meet, and then you can run it. Now you also notice that it's turning red over here, so that's where your heat is going to kick on. So if you want to live in that happy medium where you're not really using any air or any heat, this is a great way to know where you're at on the dial. Also, if you want a little bit more heat, you can actually push it in, turn it until it turns a little red, and then you know it's kicking on the heat for you. So a little tidbit there for your air conditioning system with your finger touch. What you're experiencing is having the distance meter set to 7 while you're on the highway. Instead of the car coming up close and having a distance of 4 or 5 cars behind the car in front of you before she initiates her change, by setting it to 7, she will keep a greater distance from the car in front of you, and then she will move over to go around the traffic sooner, which gives you a much more relaxed experience. And now she's getting out of the passing lane. So I'd like to show you what the rear view camera looks like. Is you can see raindrops here are forming on the back camera, but watch how the raindrops are sliding down and my picture becomes clear again. Before we left on this trip, I used Rain-X on the front windshield and on my camera lenses on the back and the 2 on each side. And it seems to be paying off because the water droplets are running down off. You can see they're running down off of the camera lens and giving me a nice clear view of what's going on behind me. So a little tidbit, I know some people have said they didn't like using Rain-X on the front windshield, but I have no chatter whatsoever from the windshield wiper blades. I got a great view, and this is a heavy mist, so it's not really enough water for it to run up and over, so the wipers are having to do their job, but they're on auto and they're working as designed. So really happy with everything that's going on here, having a nice clean view out of the back, and all is good. We'll see you on down ready.
Yes.
I just noticed this little orange or yellow arrow with the down, and so when I tap it, it brings me up to software and says update available. I'm out in the middle of Iowa, and all of a sudden we get an update. I'm excited. This is 12.1, and I hear it's got a lot of bug fixes in it. So we're excited to be able to download it. It does say please connect to Wi-Fi to download the software update. Hopefully that'll fix a little of the quirks that have been going on since the last update. And we will update it, experiment with it, and reach back out to you and let you know what we've noticed a difference in this update. So we'll see you down the road. Okay, so we have made it to Sioux Falls, South Dakota for the charging, and this is not one of the prettier sites, although there's a lot of things around here to do. We are going to hook up and charge. We have 13 miles left on the vehicle. She never did once give us a warning to slow down in order to make it to the charger. We had an experience where all of a sudden, and right about here, the speed limit jumped from 70 to 80. And so with cruise control going 5 miles an hour over, we ran pretty much above the projected line, doing 85 miles an hour. And so that brought us down pretty close to the end, but she had confidence that we could make it. So let's hook her up and see what kind of charge we get here. Right off the bat, there's a regular car in the charger. And so there we've got her charged up. But some of these look like they've been hit. Some of these poles have looked like they've been damaged. People have backed into them. The Tesla chargers are tilted and angled, and they look a little bit rough. So here we go. Now we're charging. Be nice to get 50 kilowatts. That's what this site said that it would do. Uh, 122. And I think just as the top end of the battery will slow down, I believe the bottom end of the battery takes a little bit before it will warm up. It never once gave us a sign saying that it was preconditioning the battery for supercharging. So I'm not sure quite how that does, although we've been running at 85 for the last hour, and she may be just as warm as she needs. So there we are at 26, 27. We're 523 miles an hour charge. We are going to go in here, find a restroom, and Dairy Queen is around the corner, so we're going to walk over to Dairy Queen and get us something to eat. Hopefully they'll have tables outside we can sit at. Otherwise, we'll be back here to eat in the car. We're up to 131, so we're rocking. So we're here at Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and we pulled in, we started our charging. This is actually right next to a Hy-Vee grocery store, which had an amazing food court in it. And I got a great two-piece baked chicken with mashed potatoes and macaroni and cheese. And Leanne got a margarita pizza. And so we came back out, used the restroom, came back out, and sat down. And this is where we're at in our charging. So we're already almost to 90%. We're at 87% charge. So when you look and you're calculating your trip at 87%, this will get us to Murdo, South Dakota, with 5% left. So we would like another 10% on top of that. So this is evidently a long stretch as well up here in South Dakota, not maybe as many superchargers as we would like. So one way you can figure out if you need to plan an alternate route is to cancel your navigation and then look at your route that you are going, which, let's just put it back up so you can see it again. So here is, now see, it's put in a new stop for us at Owakoma, South Dakota, yeah. And then at Wall, South Dakota. Now, Wall, South Dakota might be cool because the Wall drugstore is there. And when we went out to Montana about 6 years ago, about 5 years ago, we had to stop there because of a snow blizzard. But they closed the Wall drug down because of the snow and nobody was out there. They closed the highway.
Forced us to get off the highway.
Yep, forced us to get off the highway. We had to get a hotel, and we spent the night there and couldn't even go to the Wall drugstore. So this is adding an extra stop based on our charge at 88%. Now, if you've watched the previous charge, which we took it to 100%, the last 10% took forever, and the last 3 miles that it charged was almost $1 a minute or $1 a mile in cost of charging. So we don't want to do that again. We want to stay at 90% or less. And if we do that, then we can get to this charging station here. It had us going to that Murdo as a single stop before we got into Mount Rushmore. So here we go. If we cancel this, now our route, I didn't want it to shrink back. We're actually going to go up here to 90 and go across. And if we shrink it, now all of the chargers start to show up. So there is one here, and then Owakoma, which is the new one that it created for us. Murdo was where she was wanting us to go. And so you can see. And so it had us going from Murdo all the way to right here next to Keystone, which is where Mount Rushmore was. But it didn't show Wall, Rapid City, or this is Crescent, I believe, as I saw, Custer, that I saw on there. And so I was really worried because I got to Mount Rushmore with 14% battery. Well, then how was I going to get all the way back to Murdo? And I started panicking. And so in playing with the maps, once I canceled it, then the other superchargers show up, and then you can pre-plan your route. And so if you ever start getting too worried, if you're in navigation and she's got you set for certain superchargers, okay, and you don't think you can make it, the easiest way to do is cancel out of your navigation and then restart your navigation, and she will take into consideration your current battery and your distance, and then she'll find a closer charger for you as well. So we're at 90%. Our battery is now going to cut off, and we are going to head out. we don't want to waste time. So we've actually had maybe 5 minutes after we finished eating. So we got here, we hooked up, went to use the restroom, got our food, sat down, and actually we watched a movie. And we use Vudu all the time. And so we actually put the iPad right over the screen, watched our Vudu movie, which we had downloaded to the iPad before we left home, and ate. And when I finished eating, I started this video, and we had 5 minutes left over. So this stop really only cost us 5 minutes, more than if we'd have just stopped for a normal lunch. And if you would have considered getting gas first and then coming to get the food, you know, this might even been quicker than if we'd have done a regular stop. So we are on our way, and we'll see you down the road. So what do you do when you're on an open highway in the middle of South Dakota and there's nothing to do? You have more cowbell. This goes out to my grandson Titus, who loves this. City. They just popped out of nowhere. Wow. How cool. So we have finally made it to Mount Rushmore, and in the back of the parking lot, look what we found. We found Tesla charging, and it is not on any of the radars for the maps. Well, there she goes. And we are good. So let's see what kind of charging she gets here at Mount Rushmore. We will take advantage of the charging, and a little bit different. 32, it's a 48 amp charger, so it's not a supercharger, and so we're getting 38 miles an hour. I'm excited. It's free. it's here while we get to go search and seek out the exciting things at Mount Rushmore. So Tessie, take it away. And we are going. They also have some electric vehicle chargers that are on here on the wall as well. Even though they're Tesla chargers, they have different power handles. So they're for other vehicles, they're Tesla chargers. So how interesting is that to see a different type of connector to a Tesla wall charger. So take care of us. We are on level 2 and here we go. I'm excited. You know how many years I've wanted to come here? A little warning. I wouldn't expected that, but this will be a new experience. Totally awesome. So just in case you want to know how many people it took to build it from 1920, or to carve it, 1927 and 1941. It was quite the list. For those who know me, it's all about the vistas. Okay, so now we're heading out of Mount Rushmore. I'm going to do a little experiment. We had quite a climb coming up. We're at 241 miles on our battery. We are going to actually look at our odometer, and we're at 2444. And so we are going to see what kind of usage we have going down the mountain that we came up. So hopefully this will increase our battery. We've seen some videos where coming down out of the mountains, they actually ended up with more charge on their battery than when they started. So at 241, we'll see once we get down to Rapid City and see how far we've gone and how much battery we've actually used. Beautiful scenery here. Hopefully some of this is coming through good on the film, and not only are you learning things from our channel, but you're also getting to see a little bit of the countryside to enjoy. Okay, so we're down at Rapid City, and as you can see, the miles on our battery are down to 235, which means we've used 6 miles on our battery. However, our odometer is up to 2460, so we've traveled 16 miles, which means we've gained an extra 10 miles in our battery pack, which will help offset the energy we used to climb the mountain, I'm sure. We hope you've enjoyed our video of our trek from St. Louis to Mount Rushmore. We hope you've enjoyed the tips that we've given you along the way. If you have, please subscribe to our channel so that you will know when we put out a new video, and hit the like button, and we will look forward to seeing you down the road. We hope you've enjoyed it, and see you soon.